Today, John Stewart's Green Lantern training gets interrupted by a case that turns Rushville into a pressure cooker. Hal Jordan is already dealing with dead aliens, a wrecked sheriff's station, and a town full of people guarding secrets, while John is still trying to make his ring do what it's supposed to do. Then John gets grabbed by men who know exactly who Hal is. They don't want a confession. They want his help hunting a Manhunter, a synthetic killer that can build new bodies, wear a human face, and disappear into any community. To make sure John understands the stakes, they force him to experience what one of these beings did to their people. Now he has 48 hours to identify the Manhunter hiding in Rushville. The problem? It could be anyone. At the same time, the ranch outside town is hiding technology no one once explained. The local investigation keeps running into walls, and Hal starts realizing the danger around Rushville is bigger than a few alien bodies. By night, John brings Hal a threat that changes the entire case, pushing Hal back toward Green Lantern headquarters and a confrontation with Sinistra. But before any of that makes sense, we need to go back to the moment Hal decided John's next lesson couldn't wait. Hal Jordan starts the episode by waking John Stewart the least gentle way possible and reminding him that Rushville is still sitting on an alien problem. 4 aliens are dead on the football field, another alien has blown up part of the sheriff's station, and John assumes they are finally going to work the case. Hal has something else in mind. Today, he says, John is going to learn how to fly. John is frustrated because the town is already full of unanswered questions, but Hal keeps pushing him to stop overthinking and trust the ring. John concentrates, and instead of taking off, his power forms a bright green bird. The lesson gets interrupted when his ring announces that its charge is almost gone. Hal explains that the ring needs the Green Lantern battery, and his lantern is back at his house in Coast City. So Hal sends John to retrieve it. He gives him the address and 2 extra instructions. Feed a creature named Earl, and keep the bird construct alive the entire time. If John loses concentration and the bird disappears, Hal considers the exercise a failure. John is clearly irritated that Hal is sending him away while the real investigation is happening, but he follows the order. Hal returns to the football field, studies the scene, and starts testing a theory about the unusual security equipment around Rushville. Soon afterward, he walks into a community meeting where residents are debating whether Friday's football game should still happen after the killings. The town wants normal life back, but Hal is more interested in why Macon's people seemed prepared for an alien threat before anyone else was. Hal learns that his assault charges have been dropped, but instead of leaving town, he starts pressing harder. He suspects the sophisticated detectors around the area are more than ordinary security, and the more people suggest that Hal should go back to Coast City, the more convinced he becomes that he needs to stay. Meanwhile, John reaches Hal's house and discovers that his mentor's life is just as strange as his personality. The place is nearly empty. The lantern is locked inside a voice-activated pocket dimension vault, and Hal has to guide him through the process over the phone. John retrieves the battery, then finds Earl waiting in the greenhouse. Earl is far more intimidating than John expected, but John gets through the job while keeping the green bird alive. If you're enjoying the breakdown, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Now back to Rushville, because the mystery is about to get much bigger. While John is away, Hal takes his investigation into his own hands. He removes an alien body from the morgue and later uses the remains to test the town's hidden technology. When the sheriff stops him, Hal has evidence that the detectors react to alien material. She understands what he is trying to prove, but warns him that confronting Macon directly is a terrible idea. Hal goes anyway. At the ranch entrance, the guards refuse to let him inside. Hal asks where the advanced technology came from and why a small Nebraska town has equipment sophisticated enough to identify extraterrestrials. He is told it was supplied by a mysterious benefactor whose identity is protected by an NDA. That answer only makes Hal more suspicious. He pushes toward the property even after being warned that a rifleman has orders to shoot trespassers. Hal trusts the ring to protect him, but with its charge already low, that gamble ends badly. He is shot and later wakes up in the hospital. John's trip back becomes even more dangerous. A bald man and his group capture him, restrain him, and start asking about Hal Jordan and something called the Manhunters. John insists Hal sent him away and that he knows nothing about them. The group says they are not trying to torture him, they want to recruit him. They explain that the Manhunters existed before the Green Lanterns. According to them, these synthetic beings could build new bodies, disguise themselves as almost any species, and hide inside civilizations. Their version of justice became so brutal that entire species were lost. One manhunter supposedly infiltrated their world and engineered a catastrophe that devastated their people. To make John understand the scale of that loss, they force him to experience their memories through a device. The experience leaves him shaken. They then reveal that a Green Lantern once captured the Manhunter and promised it would be executed, but they believe it survived. After years of searching, they detected its unique radiation in Rushville. Their first team entered the town and was killed, and Hal Jordan arrived soon afterward, which makes them suspicious of him too. Because they believe they will be detected if they return, they give John the mission instead. The Manhunter could look like any ordinary human, so John has 48 hours to identify it and contact them. If he fails, their threat could destroy a huge part of western Nebraska. Back at the hospital, Hal has another confrontation, this time with the sheriff. She tells him that every time he ignores her, steals evidence, or storms Macon's property, he weakens her authority in her own town. Rushville is already frightened, and she is trying to stop paranoia from turning Macon into the real center of power. Hal finally admits she is right and apologizes. She also explains why she resisted Hal's theory about the alien detectors. The other bodies triggered the system, but Waylon did not, so she assumed he was human. She now knows that assumption was wrong. Even with the immediate attackers dead, Hal refuses to leave. He can feel that something about Rushville does not add up. John stops at a cafe and runs into a married woman with whom he has history. Their conversation turns to trust. She explains that despite her wealthy husband's eccentric behavior, she stays because she believes he loves her. John admits that Hal deliberately sent him away and that he is trying to decide whether he can trust the man training him. Her answer is simple. If John has to ask that question, he may already know the answer. That doubt follows John back to the motel. He finds Hal recovering from the gunshot and returns the lantern and suit. Hal is still focused on the ranch, convinced that Macon's unnamed benefactor and the technology on the compound are connected to whatever is happening. John checks Hal's car and finds alien residue all over the seats. Then John tells Hal what happened to him. He explains that Waylon had allies, that they abducted him near Hal's house, and that they believe a manhunter is hiding somewhere in Rushville. They gave John 48 hours to identify it, and they specifically do not trust Hal. John also tells him their theory that the Guardians may have hidden the Manhunter on Earth. Hal rejects the idea that the Guardians would do that, but he cannot dismiss the rest. A Manhunter would explain why Rushville has felt wrong from the beginning. John pushes Hal for more information, refusing to accept that the subject is above his pay grade. For once, he has brought Hal intelligence that Hal does not already have. And the bird becomes important again. John reveals that he kept the construct alive through everything: the trip, Earl, the kidnapping, and the escape. Hal knows how advanced that is, especially when John is not wearing the ring. John has been waiting for some acknowledgement from the man who spends most of his time criticizing him. Hal finally gives him the smallest possible version of it, a hoorah. It is not much, but for John, it matters. When Hal asks whether John reported the Manhunter threat to the Guardians, John tells him that he reports to Hal. Despite all the frustration between them, John is still choosing to trust his mentor. Hal may have sent him away and kept information from him, but John comes back with the truth anyway. Hal now takes the threat seriously. He puts on the Green Lantern suit, flies to Lantern headquarters, accesses the database, and goes directly to Sinistra. Hal demands to know what Sinistra knows about the Manhunters. Sinistra's answer makes the situation even worse. If a Manhunter truly still exists, he says, it would only be the second greatest threat Hal is currently facing. Then Sinistra turns the conversation toward John Stewart. That final moment changes the scale of the entire episode. A synthetic killer capable of hiding as anyone may be somewhere inside Rushville, a mysterious benefactor is supplying advanced alien detection technology, and John has only 48 hours to find the target. On top of that, Sinistra believes there is an even greater danger connected to what is happening. The episode begins with Hal treating John like a trainee who should simply follow orders. It ends with John bringing Hal the one piece of information that forces him to change direction. Their partnership is still abrasive and incomplete, but the balance has shifted. John proved he can do far more than Hal expected, and Hal can no longer keep him outside the real investigation. Whatever is hiding in Rushville, the next phase now depends on whether the two of them can actually trust each other.